Welcome back to the burn, everybody. I am Ryan Van Dever, and we are presented to you by Hot Zone Sports, the information that you need to know, built with you in mind. For the people, by the people, and with the people. Join the HZS community today. Now, today we have a very special guest, a former Major League Baseball pitcher, Mr. Scott Carroll. How are you doing today, man?
What's up, man? Thank you for having me on, and yeah, good to chat with you. So appreciate the opportunity.
It's definitely our pleasure. It's our very first former Major League Baseball player at all. So yeah, it's, it's
Nice.
it's pretty awesome. Kind of caught on a cloud nine right now. So yeah, it's pretty good. So a little backstory for Scott Carroll. He attended Liberty High School in Liberty, Missouri, where he was a star quarterback and pitcher. Not a lot of people know that. He signed a scholarship with Purdue University to play football, but Carroll could never really receive a lot of playing time as he was stuck behind maybe somebody you old timers know, Mr. Kyle Orton. That was going to be difficult. So he later transferred to Missouri State University, where he again was the starting quarterback and a top pitcher on the baseball team. So how was that, man? That had to be wild.
Yeah. So I committed pretty early going into my senior year of high school, actually. So the summer going into my senior year at high school, I was already committed to Purdue. So it made the senior year a lot easier for me to just focus on my senior year and enjoy it. But hindsight, looking back, I should have taken probably some more visits and just explored some possible more options. But Big Ten football and getting to experience that was really was a big treat, and I learned a lot about myself and just the game of football, but also just what it would take to play at the next level. But yeah, it was quite an experience.
Yeah, I bet. So let's rewind back to the beginning. You were a star quarterback and pitcher for your high school of Liberty High. So, being that as it was, which sport did you love most? Baseball or football?
Man, that's a really good question. I did get asked that a lot. I mean, I would say that the preparation of football is just unlike anything else as far as it takes so much every week. So I didn't enjoy that part the most, but I think competing and playing in football games was definitely a thrill, and definitely had the top of my enjoyment and just competitive nature. But then when I realized how much I did miss baseball. So I would say that, pitching on the baseball mound was ultimately what was my favorite. And honestly, closely second was basketball. I just loved playing basketball and competing up and down the court. So I played that in high school, but that was close second. But yeah, baseball, yeah, I would say probably edged itself out as far as me enjoying that the most, just because of what it did for my career and where I ultimately landed. But I think that baseball, competing on the mound, holding that ball, it's just you and the hitter. There's nothing, nothing like it.
Oh yeah, I remember playing against Nate Cornejo, and that was a challenge in itself. That dude, when he threw his four seamer, it was just absolutely blistering hot. But let's let's start talking about your minor league experiences. So you played 6 games for Billings, the rookie class team, in
Yeah.
2007. But before that, I should say that in 2007 that you were drafted by the Cincinnati Reds in the 3rd round, which is pretty good back then. I mean, in 2007, you were 0-1 with a 2.93 ERA, and you played for Class A Dayton and Class A Advanced Sarasota in 2008. You were combined 7-7 with 3.60 ERA in 9 games for the Dragons and 14 for Sarasota. He played 7 games at Sarasota in 2009, and a 2-game promotion to Double-A Carolina. You gave up 5 earned runs in 5 innings, getting no decisions. In 2010, you played for Class A Lynchburg, the Hillcats and the Mudcats, going a combined 4-11 with a 3.36 ERA in 5 games at Lynchburg and 20 at Carolina. Then you received a non-roster invitation to spring training for 2011. So let's take a little pause here. What was going through your mind when you were moving around so much? That had to be probably one of the more difficult things of your journey. Am I right? It definitely had to make you tough mentally.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, always in my mind, I've always been a persistent guy and a tenacious guy to where I'm gonna keep working and fighting and trying to find a way to get to my goal. And kind of in between, like when you're going through kind of some of my years in different minor league cities and teams, there was, I battled through a really bad hip injury in 2009 that basically had to sit out the remainder of the year. So that caused a little bit of a setback. So that was kind of tough to deal with. So I was dealing with, working my way up through the system, dealing with a major injury, traveling to different ball clubs. But the travel so much never really got to me. I enjoy living in hotels and staying in suitcases. That was never anything that really bothered me. Being a taller guy and a bigger guy, the bus rides aren't always the most comfortable. But
Yeah.
yeah, the long night bus rides were kind of, that's the grind right there for sure.
Yeah.
But just living, traveling city to city, living out of a suitcase in a hotel, that didn't bother me. But just, as a baseball player, just the mental, makeup and strength that it takes to last the whole season and continue to persevere. That's something that I always tried to work on.
Yeah, those bus rides, those seats probably weren't that comfortable at all.
No, no.
So during the 12 during the 2012 season, you were released by the Reds and you signed with the White Sox. You pitched in one game with the White Sox Double A Birmingham before being promoted to the White Sox Triple A affiliate Charlotte. You had a combined 4-6 record with an ERA of 4.48 and 65 strikeouts in 35 games between Louisville, Birmingham, and Charlotte. And he spent the most of the 2013 season on the disabled list. When activated, you rehabbed at the rookie level with the Bristol White Sox and then went on to Double A Birmingham, where you finished the 2013 season with a combined record of 0-2 and 11 starts. Yes, that was the injury year, where there was 41 and 0 third innings, 3.29 ERA, 42 hits, 6 walks, and 29 strikeouts. So, what did you take away from your time in their minor leagues at this point? I'm sure the 2013 season had to be a culmination of many emotions.
Yeah, so that was 2012. I tore my ligament in my elbow. I was pitching in Venezuela in winter ball and had to have Tommy John. So going into that, I had a fork in the road, and like we talked about previously, just being persistent and tenacious. I wasn't going to give up. I knew I had a lot of talent left and a lot of just ability to show what I wanted to do, and making it to the big leagues was the dream of mine, and I was going to keep working at that. So I dedicated myself that off season in 2013 to rehabbing, and I came back pretty strong and was able to, like I said, pitch in with the Double A team to just continue my rehab starts, but also just get back to playing again, which felt great. So yeah, it was definitely a whirlwind of emotions going from I'm hurt, my elbow's blown out. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and make this decision to keep playing. What does this look like? And then dedicate myself to really making myself a better pitcher and a better teammate.
So, on April 27th, 2014, I'm sure you remember this date, probably next to the date
Yeah.
of your children's births.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
were selected to the 40-man roster and promoted to the major leagues for the very first time. You made your major league debut that same exact day. Talk about an added emotion into the complex. In your rookie campaign, you had 26 appearances, 19 starts for the White Sox, registering a 5-10 record with a 4.80 ERA with 64 strikeouts, 129 in the third innings pitched. And on November 25th, 2014, you were designated for assignment following the signing of Adam LaRoche. On December 2nd, Carroll yourself was non-tendered by Chicago and you became a free agent. So walk us through all of the emotions that you felt on April 27th, the grind that you went through to finally bust through the majors. A childhood dream, I am absolute sure.
No doubt. So that was quite, uh, like you were just saying, you described it as a journey and a childhood dream for sure. So ultimately, what it came down to though was when I did get called up on Sunday that and made that debut. It was obviously one of the greatest days of my life, and was a cool experience for not only myself but my family and all my good friends that got to enjoy it that day with me. But it was a culmination for sure of just a lot of hard work and you know, overcoming adversity when a lot of people didn't think I was going to be able to make it, but I still had a lot of good people in my corner and people that were you know, really excited for me. And then you know, just my time, you know, with the White Sox, you know, it goes by really fast. It really does. And you know, with it, three years flew by like that. You know, I had some really good success out of the bullpen, and even my first year as a starter, I had some good success. But as a reliever, that second year, I had some really good success, and thought I'd have an opportunity to compete for a spot that third year. But just wasn't in the cards. But you know, Chicago gave me my shot, so I'm forever grateful for that. But yeah, it just didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. But at the same time, you know, I definitely fulfilled a childhood dream.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was the call up like? Because you hear about it, and you know some people they play MLB the Show and they wait for the call up, and you know I'm sure it's nothing like the real deal. So did you receive a phone call? Was it from the manager,
Yeah.
GM? How did that work?
Yeah, so I got a phone call. It was actually it was after we had a day game, and I was just grocery shopping in the grocery store in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I got a phone call from Buddy Bell, actually, who was our farm director at the time, and he oversaw the whole minor league farm system, and he informed me that I would be getting called up, but I couldn't let anybody know other than my immediate family. But I was going to be making the start um, in a few days because I think he called me on Thursday, and he said, you know, you're going to be making the start on Sunday in Chicago. And so I you know, it was one of the coolest phone calls to receive, and it was you know, obviously just pure excitement and elation. Called my folks immediately and told them they better pack their bags and get to Chicago soon. So
That is awesome. That is
yeah.
probably one of the greatest phone calls you're ever going to receive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
I didn't block the phone call. I accepted it, so it wasn't like because I always try to answer phone numbers even if I don't know them. So it worked out really well.
see, I'm quite the opposite.
Right.
I do not answer the phone call if I don't recognize the number. If it's not saved, hey, you ain't getting through. So
Right.
that would be a mistake on my part.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do have to ask because I don't know for all of the kids that are battling in A, single A high. Um, did you ever feel like quitting, like you were never going to get the call?
I mean, yeah, to be honest, you go through those emotions and those feelings and those inner thoughts of, you know, when is it going to be my time, or am I doing enough, or am I good enough type of thing. But you know, and ever since I was, you know, even in high school, that was always my dream to be a Major League Baseball player. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. Like, and again, looking back, I could have done some things differently, but at the same time, you know, I was a young kid trying to work my way through a possible football scholarship. And then, okay, now I'm going baseball. So, for my personal experience, there was a lot of twists and turns, and so it's never going to be a straight line. And so I think to talking to the young kids like out there, like you're saying, and people just, you know, going through the grind and getting into professional baseball, is that, you know, if you dedicate yourself, you know, to the overall goal and really work to still persevere and get there, and put in work every single day, and have true belief, then good things really can happen. Because I think when everything came together for me is when I, you know, after my Tommy John surgery, and I'm pitching in 2014, I start in AAA. You know, I start off really well, and it was some of the best I felt as far as just my body, but also just my mind. I was just very focused and very confident in what I needed to do. So I think pairing that up is big. And when you have success, obviously that builds confidence. But at the same time, you know, you got to be understanding that it's not going to be easy. It is going to be tough, and understanding that first, that if you can accept the you know, the toughness that comes with this journey, then you're going to be on the better end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So SGA for MVP, Scott Carroll, former pitcher. Awesome. Yeah, we got him on the show, man.
Yeah,
Next is Patrick Mahomes. Just
let's get
joking.
them. Yeah,
Quitters never win, and winners never quit. Got it. Yeah, it's one of the greatest quotes ever. Thanks for commenting, SGA. for MVP. I think he won the MVP, but we won't talk about that. So,
Yeah, they're favorites to win the NBA Finals, right?
golly, that last game was just unwatchable. They were up by 60 at one point in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
that's crazy.
That's today's basketball. All right,
Hmm.
we get back on track here. Robin Ventura. So I grew up, not to date myself or anything, but I grew up watching the Royals and the Braves, and when Robin Ventura was a player for the White Sox, and
Right.
he was your manager back then. What was it
Hmm.
like working with him?
Well, I mean, super nice guy and very just down to earth. He didn't have a whole lot of interaction with us as pitchers, to be honest with you. So, but he
Okay.
was a super nice guy and took care of his players. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of experiences just with him on a daily basis, just because at the big league level, to be honest with you, the some of the managers kind of just do their own thing and don't and the pitchers are on their own little kind of island or section of the clubhouse or part of the team. But I respect him big time, and he was a hell of a baseball player. And yeah, I wish we could have won more games with him as our manager, but I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is. His hands were tied in certain situations. But yeah, he was a great guy.
All right. So one of the big things in baseball is superstitions, right? You, I know. I've heard of some players they will cut one of their shoelaces on one of the eyelets before a game. There's lots of crazy things. Did you have any superstitions?
I would say as far as superstitions, I would when things are going really well, I would definitely like put my uniform on the same way every time. I would try to do very similar things pre-game. I'm not just talking about like my warm up. I'm talking about like when you're hanging out in the locker room and you got some downtime. So that's one of the biggest kind of things with baseball that's different from a lot of sports is there's a lot of downtime. Like you're just hanging out in the clubhouse for hours and hours because there's so many different things going on, batting practice and fielding practice and pitchers BP, whatever it is. There's just a lot of downtime, so you got to keep yourself just either busy or just relaxed. And so staying relaxed was a tough thing for me to do, so I would try to find things to just keep me busy but kind of keep it very similar if I was pitching really well. Yeah, so like there wasn't a whole lot of just like superstitions, but my friends give me crap though. One thing that I did do a lot is I licked my fingers a ton, so that was just something that I guess as far as a superstition or convenience thing, it's like I had to get the right amount of moisture on my fingers that just so I would always be licking in my fingers.
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing with basketball, but
Yeah.
yeah. So you rejoined the White Sox on another minor league deal after that in January 2015. After beginning the year with Charlotte, you were selected back to the active roster on April 26th after Eric Surkamp was designated for assignment. You registered a 3.44 ERA with 27 strikeouts and 36 two-thirds innings of work. But you were on the same pitching staff with Chris Sale. Samardzija was there one year.
Hmm.
Banks, Noese. You were with these guys during this time. Did you take anything from them for the time that you were with them?
Absolutely, yeah. I still talk to Chris Sale to this day. So he's, I mean, a great teammate, one of the coolest guys ever. I learned a lot from him. And John Danks was another guy who they took me under their wing and just showed me how to be a big leaguer, but also just we're just great teammates and fun guys, man. Just wanted to have a good time and we're really enjoyable to be around and just wanted to see everybody succeed. But yeah, and then Samardzija was there as well. Another great dude. I tried to watch him and learn from him quite a bit, just because we were similar in the styles and how we threw. So we would pick each other's brain just about certain pitches. But yeah, so there's some good pitchers on our staff, and we fell short that year just as far as what we should have accomplished. But overall, we had a very talented staff, and those are some great teammates to have.
See, I was kind of sad when Jeff Samardzija didn't go into the NFL because he was like
Yeah,
elite as a wide
yeah.
receiver for Notre Dame. So I was like,
Yeah, but I think so. He realized though that the money and the health points its arrows at at
Yeah.
baseball. So he could pitch and not have to worry about getting hit and still make a very very nice living and make great money being a dominant pitcher. And he had some dominant years. So yeah, that dude's a hell of an athlete, and he was a good dude, and yeah, it was fun to be teammates with him.
So you answered part of my question. Do you still talk to any of these guys? Do you guys ever just sit back and tip a couple beers back and remember all the good times or anything like that?
Man, so I haven't seen those guys in a long time, but over text messages we'll reach out. But just with families and stuff now, man, it's just crazy. Like I'm a father as well, but when you start having families and the kids get involved and just schedules and everyone's living their own life, it kind of takes over and it sucks. But I mean that's part of why you miss the game is because of the cool people you got to come across and meet and really just enjoy the clubhouse with and be teammates with. So those are the reasons why you play the game, but also why you miss it. So, but yeah, there um, occasional text messages and things like that. So it's still nice to hear from them and get to connect when we do.
Oh, it's good. Chris Sales with the Braves, a winning organization. Well,
Yeah,
not so much right now. They struggled
yeah.
out of the
But I mean, he
gates,
had a
but
hell of a year last year. I was so proud of him.
I think
Yeah,
I think they'll make it back once Acuna gets back and Strider. I think they'll be all right.
yeah.
But talk about your pitching strategies, your variety of pitches, and how you handle different types of hitters.
Good question. Well, so I was a heavy sinker ball pitcher, so that was my strongest pitch. So I threw a very heavy fastball that had a lot of sink to it. So even what's crazy is how much the game has changed since I even finished playing, but also when I was first drafted. So when I was first drafted in '07, the average major league fastball was 89 miles an hour. Now it's I think 95, right? I think the average is 95. So
Yeah.
it just shows you how much the game has changed, just as far as pitching styles and just with analytics and technology and strength and conditioning, all that stuff. But so my comp coming out of college was Kevin Brown. Remember him?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, big tall pitcher,
Yeah.
heavy
Yeah.
sinker. Yeah, heavy sinker. So that was my comp coming out of the draft and kind of who the draft evaluees had me at. And so, I was a low 90s fastball guy with a heavy sinker. And then one thing that I think that kind of did hinder me a little bit is being a multi-sport athlete. I didn't get to work on my pitching arsenal as much as I should have or would have liked to because I was playing other sports and that took away from time of really developing and fine-tuning pitches. So when I was drafted and I was working my way up through the minor league ranks was having to work on my off speed pitches as far as just that third pitch because I had a good curveball and then I threw a split finger changeup and it was probably an average pitch at that time and then as I kept climbing up through the ranks in Double A, Triple A, and then the big leagues, we had to work on a fourth pitch, especially if you're a starter. To have a fourth pitch to be able to work through the lineup that third time is huge. So working on a slider, developing a really good slider and sharpening my breaking ball of the curveball really helped out a lot. So I loved pitching inside to righties and breaking bats and that was very enjoyable because I could give them fits and be able to go work both sides of it with the sinker and with my breaking pitches. But overall, stats will show that I did struggle more against lefties, but I still had success. But I just struggled more against them just because of my sinking action would creep back over the plate if I really didn't get it inside. But yeah, that's when I was learning how to use my breaking balls, my pitches more, and I think in like you're referencing 2015, but like my curveball in 2015 was probably my best pitch, and I had a lot of swings and misses that year on my curveball. So that was a plus pitch for me.
Yeah. So we do have an interesting question here. Did you pitch against Randy Johnson, the bird shot?
No, I'm not. I didn't pitch against Randy Johnson. He was already retired by the time I stepped into the show. Because I think when was his last year? Do you remember?
Not off the top of my head,
Yeah,
but I would gander a guess probably
it.
early 2000s if I had to.
Yeah, he that would have been terrifying though if I ever had to step into the plate with him throwing. Me and some guys were just talking about him the other day actually, just with him being that tall, 6'10", and getting rid of the ball like he was already what 5, 6, 7 feet across off of the rubber by the time he threw the ball, so it'd be terrifying.
His
So
slider was just
Yeah,
nasty, man. It
yeah.
it terrified hitters because there was so much breaking action to it.
Yeah, that highlight of him and John Kruk,
Oh
and
boy.
that also that's such a good, yeah, such a good highlight.
Yeah, that's great. So next you moved on to the Texas Rangers.
Yeah.
On July 20th, 2016, you were traded to the Texas Rangers in exchange for cash considerations. You gotta love that. You made two starts for the AAA Round Rock Express. I always love these AAA names, you know. But
Yeah.
in seven starts with Frisco, you posted a 2.92 ERA and 24 strikeouts and 37 innings of work, and you elected to go to free agency the following season. What was your first thought when you were traded?
Well, so the 2016 was a tough year just in a lot of aspects because honestly, I wasn't 100% like health wise when I got sent down. Like I when I was pitching in the big leagues, I felt something and I should have stepped up and said something to the training staff. But when you're a rookie still, so to speak, and trying to fight for every, outing or roster spot that you can,
Yeah.
you always try and take the ball and say that you can pitch. But I there was something going on in my shoulder and I should have got it checked out and I didn't, and it's unfortunately my fault that I didn't speak up. But I yeah, had a rough go with it with just my shoulder, and then trying to, I got sent down to AAA. Just, I continued to not pitch well. Well, I wasn't feeling very good at all, and there was stuff going on with my shoulder. So I battled health that whole season, and then my velocity was down, and so ended up obviously like you said with Double A and with Texas. And Texas was a good organization, to be honest with you, as far as an opportunity for me, and I wanted to keep playing, and I had a really good time on the Double A team, and obviously that wasn't my end goal, was to end there, but I had sights of going back to the big leagues and trying to do what I need to do to get back up there.
Yeah, so there were some pretty good hitters in 2015, 2016. What would you say was your most difficult?
Yeah, I would say that, like I think just overall when I remember just really tough at bats, I think it would be, they would be lefties. Righties never, it wasn't as, I wasn't as fearful or worried about righties, but I, not that I didn't have some struggles against righties, but I just mean like lefties would just give me more of a tough time. And most of the time there were guys that could put the barrel on the ball as far as just hit for doubles or even just place the ball. But yeah, Robinson Cano was a tough out. Um, and Jose Reyes was a really tough out. Just guys that I really had to execute with lefties in there. So those are just two guys that stuck out to me.
So for your final 2 years, or 2017 to 2018, you just kind of bounced around a little bit. You ended up playing in Mexico or Torres de Tijuana. I think that's the route.
The Tijuana Toros.
Yeah, I think that's a route another pitcher's going right now. Actually, I think he's in Japan right now. We won't talk about him though, because he is very vibrant on Twitter.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Um, but you played for the Chicago Cubs in 2017. You made four starts with AAA Iowa Cubs. You had a 3.68 ERA, 16 strikeouts, and 22 innings pitched. But what what was the? How would you explain how the rest of your career went?
Um, that's a good question. I would say just like unfulfilled, honestly, just because there was just a lot that I was still trying to get back to and achieve, and I knew I was capable. I still like the velocity was starting to pick up as far as that's where the trend started to go. And the game gets younger and younger every single day, and that's part of it. But
Yeah.
I think if I could have gotten truly healthy and gotten to a spot where my velocity was back up where it needed to be, and I think I, would have gotten back up to the big leagues, to be honest with you. So I have mixed feelings about how it ended. But again, I'm not trying to play a violin or anything like that. And I got to achieve a lifetime dream, but it just didn't end the way I wanted it to. But still enjoyed the game at the end because I got to play and meet with a lot of cool people and play all across the world, to be honest with you.
Well,
So yeah,
you were definitely in a percentage of most of the human population that never even sees a Major League Baseball diamond. So,
right.
congrats to you.
Yeah.
One heck of an achievement. And so, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but yeah, I never went to White Sox Stadium yet. Been on a mound, so
Yeah. Yeah.
but let's I have something that I'm curious to ask. There's lots of players, lots of sports. Whether it's football, basketball, baseball, you got a pregame routine
Yeah.
and how you prepare for the game. What was yours?
Yeah, so I was trying to always fine tune mine, but also learn more about myself, like what did actually work. Because to be honest with you, I have a lot of just experience with trying to try different things because when I was in college, I was coming from being a football player, and so I was constantly trying to warm up like a football player and do just calisthenics and stuff like that. But then I slowly learned that, there's other ways that I needed to be preparing and warming up as a pitcher, and then so I tried to take some of those things that I did like within a football warm up and incorporate them in a baseball warm up. But I was a big long toss fan, so even on the days of start, I would just air it out just a little bit, just so I could feel that just really be able to lengthen out and throw the ball, across the diamond, from foul pole to foul pole almost sometimes, and that that was a way that I like to warm up. And then as I got older and got more, just familiar with how I needed to perform and how I needed to warm up and execute that. Things always just got a little bit tighter and easier as far as just dialing in my routine. But I was always a guy I felt rushed though too, like I felt like I wasn't doing enough even when I was warming up. I was like, man, okay, I only have a few minutes to get this in, as opposed to really taking my time. So
That's good. So we did have a question on Facebook. How did oh I lost the question for a minute. 1 second. Here we go. Okay, how did your time in college affect your MLB career?
how did my time in college affect my MLB career? um So I would say that it was helpful in the way that I didn't have a lot of like a lot of innings on my arm. I mean, obviously, I still end up having Tommy John, but that I feel like that could happen to anybody. So there was no rhyme or reason. But I feel like I grew from being able to pitch in college, and using that small, just sample size, and say, okay, I was good at this for a couple of years, and this is something I really can take to the next level, and really pursue and still achieve my dream. That I think it further instilled confidence in me that because I was, successful in it in just a couple years after, high school, I gave up baseball. I didn't pick up a baseball for almost 3 years.
Wow.
And then, I come back out and then pitch again. And I was, one of the top pitchers in the country. So it was something that just, it came easier to me, but it helped instill that confidence. Like, this is the right route I need to go.
Good stuff. So one big thing was with how you ended your career. How did you like Mexico?
It was quite an experience, man. To be honest with you, I didn't want it to end. What's funny is the last game that I played with Tijuana, I threw a no hitter, a 5 inning no hitter, but they made adjustments and said we're going a different direction with the other guys because there's also an American rule that you can only have, I think it's like, I don't know the exact number, but there's a cap on how many American players that they can have on the team. And so they were making adjustments and shuffling guys in and out the whole year. So it was a really cool experience. My brother Jeff, he's my middle brother. He lives, it still does, but he was living in San Diego, and so I got to see him quite a bit. And he would come to some games and enjoy it. So it was cool to see my brother be just right across the border with him, because we would live in San Diego, like us as players, and then travel across the border every day. So it would be, quite an experience. But yeah, it was a really good time. And if any player out there has an opportunity to do it, I would recommend you do it and really, really, really enjoy it.
Couldn't even imagine
they
playing in
know
Mexico. I
how
mean,
they know how to party down there, man.
oh,
They got vuvuzelas, they got cheerleaders, they got the whole thing going. The music never stops, so it's such a different experience.
cheerleaders in baseball. I'm not sure I've ever experienced that. So the baseball season is long in the Major
Yeah.
League Skate, 162 games. How do you stay focused and maintain your performance during a long baseball season like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I mean, to be honest with you, that is kind of the war of attrition when you're in the minor leagues. It's just, can guys handle the road trips? Can you handle just the lifestyle of playing 152? Because in minor leagues, you have less off days. So,
Mm,
the union in Major League Baseball is a cool thing because it protects the players and you get an off day quite a bit. Whereas in minor leagues, there was no union and there weren't as many off days. So you're playing 144 games in like 152 days. So it's
oof,
just a grind. Yeah.
oof.
And so for positional players, man, that's why it's a war of attrition. And if you can stay healthy and just keep your mind right and keep your body right, that's where you can really, take it's obviously if you're performing on the field, but you can continue to make those strides because you're staying healthy and you show you can do it on a week in and week out basis.
Last question when it comes to your baseball career. Can you discuss a memorable moment or achievement in your baseball career? And no, it cannot be getting called up to the major leagues.
Um, so okay, scrub. I mean, what I would say though is that it's gonna be also the day that I did pitch in the big leagues, and that was, I think just from a standpoint of one of the coolest things you can do as a teammate. I had, I after the game, I'm talking to reporters and trying to figure out what me and my family are going to do for a post game because I got a ton of family and friends in town, and I run into Adam Dunn in the locker room and just chatting with him. And I said, "Hey, Adam, where would you go if you had a bunch of friends and family in town? Like, is there a place I can just we can grab a bite to eat and just hang out?" He goes, "Yeah, I got some. I got a recommendation. Go to Timmy O'Toole's." I'm like, "Okay." So I log that in my mind, and so me and my family go to Timmy O'Toole's, and then we have a good night. We're there for several hours, buying drinks, food, hanging out, celebrating it. And we go to pay the bill, and the waitress is like, "Oh no, you're already taken care of. Adam Dunn took care of your tab." And I was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Wow!" I just like it. It just was like that was like the icing on the cake for that day for me and my family. But just like as a big league experience, I'm like, I hoped to one day do that for one of my teammates, but just for him to do that, step up and make that day memorable for me was incredible and something I'll never forget. But just what a cool dude to be able to do that because he didn't have to, but he just went out of his way to make sure it was memorable for me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's great to hear. So, the NFL draft is just a couple of days away. All right.
Yeah.
You're a former baseball player, so let's see what you got here. The draft is on Thursday, and you're in the Kansas City area. What say you? What should the Chiefs do at 31?
Man, a lot of rumors are saying they're going to try and move up a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't be mad. I think go if you can move up, go after. I think a defensive tackle will be their best to get first, and then yeah, I've even mentioned an offensive tackle, but they did sign one earlier. But I think if you can get your best defensive tackle that you have graded, and then to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind if they went out and got another wide receiver. Like give Patrick Mahomes more weapons. It's like we forget how other teams build around their quarterbacks, but yet with the Chiefs, it's like Patrick Mahomes can cure so many illnesses as far as just your ailments as a team. So if they can continue to get him some good weapons and find a Rasheed Rice type talent in the second or third round, that would be awesome.
See, my thing was they signed that guy from the 49ers offensive tackle, but he doesn't have a lot of snaps under in his career, really,
Right.
on the blind side. So me personally, I like the offensive tackle Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. I think he has a lot of potential there, especially being a late pick in the first round. Simmons can legitimately be in the conversation for offensive tackle one in this class. He is not had he not suffered that torn patellar tendon last season, I strongly believe that he could have gone in the top 10, but I do have a hypothetical here. And if any of my Twitterverse people are on here, you saw my mock draft for the Colts. Obviously, you saw my Colts Cup. Yeah. So, anyway, another situation that I could see playing out, and it's been rumored that they could trade up to a 25th pick But if they trade up to the 25th pick, you're going to be trading with the Texans. I don't think they're going to go for that. So I think you're going to have to trade up to the 24th spot to select offensive tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas. This could be their long term answer at left tackle, but they're going to have to leapfrog Houston in the process. It's a team that could also target offensive line help. The last time the Chiefs came off a Lombardi trophy free season, Brett Veach and head coach Andy Reid made a similar move up the board to secure a need and draft cornerback. Maybe you heard of him, Trent McDuffie. But I also like that edge out of Marshall, Mike Green. I'm not sure if he's going to fall to 31, but if he does, it will be a dream for all Chiefs fans because he led the nation with 17 sacks, and I get it. Sun Belt Conference, not great competition. Well, he did play Virginia Tech and Ohio State, and a twitched up edge rusher whose motor always is running hot. Green would be a steal for Kansas City if he falls that far.
Dang, like that. Okay, I'll have to look into. I haven't. So you're more dialed in than me. Like you're doing mock drafts and stuff. I go to almost all the home Chiefs games, so I'm a huge fan, but not as dialed in as you for sure on the draft
Well,
side of it. But I think that'd be great. I would, dude. They need an edge rusher. That would
yeah.
be great because they got to get some more depth out there.
They do. That is one of their like I get the defensive tackle, but I would wait until like the second round to go that route. But I've also heard they want to get that running back out of North Carolina, and
Yeah.
he probably will be there. But do you want to select a running back in the first round? I'm not sure. That team
Well,
seems a little steep.
yeah. Not in the first. I would go with if the running back that they really liked was there in the second round. I have no problem with them getting a good running back in the second round because they have shown they need an explosive running back. That's one thing that this team has never given Patrick Mahomes is a good running back.
Yeah, I mean you got Isaiah Pacheco in the seventh round, so it's not
Yeah.
really. But let's go ahead and move on to the Royals. All right, one guy I really wanted to get your opinion on is Chris Bubic. This guy has had a pretty great start to the season: 2-1, 1.88 ERA through 4 games played, 27 Ks. In his last outing, he went 5.1 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 8 Ks. It looks like he is going to be facing off against the Rockies on Tuesday. So tell me, what have you seen from Bubic so far this season?
I mean, I'm super happy for him and the way he's so him coming back last year from his injury and then pitching out of the bullpen. I think it helped a lot his mindset, but also
Yeah.
his pitch selection. And then now this year he's dialed in with his focus and just his execution. Like he's able to showcase two different kinds of breaking balls. That changeup is very deadly, and he's got very good command of his fastball. So he always looks poised. He looks in control, and he's turned into a really, really good pitcher and a guy they can build around if he keeps this up.
I mean, to me, Bubic has been an ace of all aces this season. Yeah, it's early, but I don't want to hear it. It's only 4 starts. I get it. But I've been really impressed with him so far because he hadn't started a game in a couple of years due to that injury. Last year, as you said,
Right.
he was coming out of the pen all season. You can tell that he's got a great mental game. You could even say a reliever mentality, if you will. So, what is it with him that he's shown, even for this short amount of time, that he was able to jump back into this role?
Man, I think just, the work that he put in and just, when you get hurt and you're injured and you're coming back from injury, it kind of resets you just mentally, but also physically. So he dedicated himself to really improving as a pitcher, and he knew that he needed to have better control and also varying off speed pitches to help him succeed as a starter. Because when you're going through the lineups 2 and 3 times, you got to keep those hitters off balance and be able to show multiple pitches. And so he's done a great job of utilizing those newer pitches that he's developed and also keep hitters off balance. But his fastball, when he's locating it, it's tough to hit because it just kind of gets on you, and he's got a funky delivery, and it's not an easy ball to pick up, and so he's fun to watch.
His changeup has actually got to be his best pitch.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, man. There's the guys on the Royals, man. They got really good changeups. It's crazy. You got Reagans, who has a filthy changeup. Bubic, Walker's changeup's been his pitch for a long time. But those guys, they know how to pitch, and they've clearly over the past 1.5 seasons have shown that they're one of the top pitching staffs in the league.
yeah, so I did a little bit of research on Bubic, and I'm kind of a metrics guy myself. So when it comes to metrics, from a swing and miss standpoint, Bubic sits at the 70th percentile or higher in K rate, 73rd at 27.6%. His whiff rate, 74th at 30.2%, and his chase rate was 70th at 31.3%. He also pairs with an equally impressive 71st percentile walk rate. His 87.1 miles per hour average exit velocity places him 76th percentile of the league arms, while 52% ground ball percentage places him in the 74th percentile. In terms of quality of contact, Bubic may lean more average when it comes to hard hit and barrel rates, ranging in the 61st and 63rd percentile, respectively. But he makes up for that with an average exit velocity and ground ball rate above the 70th percentile. Saying all of this, he's doing everything at a more than respectable level. And even if this surface level numbers come back down to earth, but he's proving that he's more than a capable of being a key quality starter in this staff.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. Everything you just described is showing that those are trending in the right direction, and he's growing more and more as a big league starter. And he's a lefty, which that's another asset. Just left-handed pitchers are they're different and they're more valued. And he's on the right path as far as the way he's approaching these hitters and what he's trying to do with his arsenal of pitches. And yeah, he can definitely. I love that he can pitch to contact, but he also can, make guys miss with the swing and miss rate.
Yeah. So when you played, did you mess around with your arsenal that much? There are some pitchers that who don't want to really mess around with anything, don't want to change anything. Bubic kind of feels to me like he likes to tinker around with his stuff a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just case by case, and each guy is different. But yeah, us as pitchers, we're always trying to perfect our pitches and fine tune them as much as we can. And the thing that's different now, though, is the analytics have completely changed. There's so much information and data on every single pitch that they throw. Like, they have the ability to go through a bullpen and know like what their pitches are doing instantaneously, whereas we would just go off of feel what the catcher was telling us, what we saw, what we think we saw. Just it was all that was the information we were collecting. How did it feel coming off of our hands? Hey, catcher, did that look good? Is that the right spin? And that's what we had to go off of. To where now there's so much information, and it's good for the game, but obviously it's excelled to where pitching is where it's at now. But there's just so much information readily available, and guys are using it to their advantage.
Yeah, it's just it's pretty wild. The analytics are, I don't know, it's getting kind of out of hand. But the Royals, they're 2-8 in their last 10 games with series with you know the Twins, the Guardians, Yankees, Tigers to start the season. Not an easy slate. They get a chance in their upcoming series with the Rockies, who are struggling at the moment with 4 wins and are also 2-8 in their last 10. Maybe string some wins together. It's still too early in the season, and Royal Nation is reeling. But should they? I mean, it's not even May yet.
Well, no, I think there is some cause for some concern. Clearly, that their offensive output has not been good. They're averaging, they average 2 runs a game over that road trip, and going 2-8. That's just not a recipe for winning baseball to compete in a division. So they do have to get better at the plate. The pitching staff, by and large, has pitched really well, and they were pressing in some moments just because that your offense isn't producing. So I think it goes kind of on both sides. There is a little bit of cause for concern, but it is still early enough where a lot of progress can be made, and that's why this off day today is going to help them a lot and get ready for this series to where they can get back on track against a team they should handle, and then they're going to have 3 more games on their home set. So it's a good time to have an off day and then get refreshed to start this home series.
Yeah, I mean, at least they moved Melendez down to AAA. That's all I can say. That
Yeah.
his 0.85 batting average was just, man, he's got some work to do when it comes to AAA. He's got to figure it out offensively because his production was just not there. I mean, one of his 4 hits this season was a home run. After that, it really was. I think he might have had a double after that, but it, it's been real hit or miss, and that's just the Royals' offense right now. Outside of Bobby Witt, mind you, what would you do with Isabel and Renfroe? Because they have struggled with their at bats this season. Isabel is hitting 214. Renfroe is 140. I mean, you could dive a little further with Jonathan India hitting 205, Pasquantino hitting 195. The bats are not coming alive for the Royals so far. I mean, Bobby Witt is doing Bobby Witt things, but other than that, it
Yeah.
hasn't been very spectacular.
No, and I mean, it's a lot of weight. I mean, if you remove him from, I heard this stat today, if you remove Witt just from the lineup, collectively the Royals are hitting 195,
Mm,
and that's not good. So
yeah.
that's obviously not what they want to be doing. But again, I think they're, you have hope, and you expect them to, as big league players and coaches, and to be able to have a game plan and have some adjustments to be made to where they can turn the corner and start having a better last couple of weeks of April and then into the rest of the season, because they're going to need it. I mean, that's on, you can't win baseball games playing the way they're playing offensively, because it just puts so much pressure on your pitching staff, and we just know that pitchers are going to give up runs every now and then. You're not going to get amazing starts every single time out. So, yeah, they're going to need more production out of Isbell, out of Renfroe, out of Pasquantino. What you talk about last year with Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, and Bobby Witt. Those were their 3 main guys RBI wise. Everybody else just kind of sprinkled in some efforts. So that's why it's even different this year. It's like, okay, with Salvi kind of starting slow, and Bobby Witt still doing his thing, but doesn't have a ton of RBIs because no one gets on base for him.
Right.
So it's just interesting. So you gotta be able to create runs, and honestly play small ball better. They got to be able to put the ball in play and move runners over when there's available, because they haven't been able to do that as well.
I do have a question for you though when it comes to Melendez. How long of a leash do you think there's going to be for Melendez? 1,600 plate appearances, 1,452 at bats, 216 average, 299 on base percentage. It's just not good any way you look at it. You want him to do well, obviously, as a Kansas City Royals fan, but the production just isn't there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, and that's why they moved him. Made the move to move him down. So it's going to take some time, and he'll spend some time down in AAA, and just see if he can get to where he's more competitive at the plate, and is able to adjust his contact rate, and really fine tune his approach. But yeah, there's a lot of data on him actually. Like you talk about just what he's actually done as a big leaguer, and a lot of people don't get that second opportunity, but he's still young enough, and this isn't the end of his journey, and he'll continue to work through it. But it's going to be a little bit. I foresee, even if there was an injury, I still foresee him staying down there and them having to work on some stuff, because it would not do him any good to call him right back up when an injury happens. But they definitely need some production from outfielders that they're going to be bringing up.
I mean, you still got some other players. You got
Yeah,
Drew Waters, who hasn't
yeah,
really had a lot of experience.
yeah,
He probably had one of his better games the other day. I think he ended up going 2 for 4, and then you got Canna.
yeah.
He's
That was a good pickup.
yeah, I think so too. But the timing of him being sent down to AAA, did that resonate with you, or send you shockwaves down your spine or anything like that?
No, I thought the timing made sense of when they did it, and it actually was a little bit later than I would have even done it if I was in the front office. But hey, that's their own decision. But they had made the decision, I think several days prior to actually making the transaction. So it wasn't a surprise, and it's what needed to be done. And now other guys need to step up, and I heard some of JJ Piccolo's comments. It's like when the team's not doing well and you send guys down, it highlights and puts a spotlight on these types of moves. Because if the team was performing really well, there wouldn't be as much attention on it. But that's the case that's going on. And so the team's got to perform better. They're going to start bringing up guys and making adjustments if whoever's playing well to keep this team trying to fight for a wild card spot.
Now we gotta touch on Hunter Renfroe. All right, we talked about his battling or lack thereof, but now if you watch him, you start to see his arm. It's actually getting worse. I was listening to a show earlier today where they were talking about his arm, and I don't quite understand. So it's offensive production that starts to fall off, but now defensive production is doing the same. Like, do you think the Royals end up moving him next?
I think that could be high on their priority list because listen, they're giving him a lot of money to play right field and to do what he's doing. They could find a much cheaper option.
Yeah.
Granted, it would cost them to get rid of him, but cheaper in the fact that they could bring some rookies up or get Drew Waters some appearances out there. Or even Canna would be a good fill out there for a little bit. But yeah, he's definitely going to be a topic of discussion because when you continue to not perform like this, they're going to continue to look at why you're not performing and what you're being paid and why you're having struggles because it's just to have an outfield as weakly offensively as weak as they are offensively, it's not a recipe for success.
All right. So I wanted to get your perspective on what's going on with these contracts in the major leagues. Okay. I'm sure you wish that you would have gotten the Juan Soto contract, but being a former major leaguer, I wanted to get your perspective on a possible salary cap. I'm pretty sure the owners would love a salary cap at this point, but with all the recent contracts, you go Juan Soto, 15 years, 765.
Yeah.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 14-year, which is just insane to me, $500 million contract. Shohei Ohtani, 10-year, 700 million, 680 million deferred. Don't know how they pulled that off. But the owners, they can only blame themselves for the situation that they're in. They have to know that
Yeah.
a legitimate salary cap right now would be a better for the game, but they just can't get out of their own way. They seem to be getting smarter about it. I haven't seen a pitcher get a contract in over 10 years and, get a contract of 10 years or more. No offense. Their arms and elbows are just, they're they're tenuous. You
Yeah.
got Garrett Crochet. He just signed a 6-year, $170 million contract, which I did not like at all. Vlad Jr. was 26 when he signed his contract. And I think, if memory serves correct, Fernando Tatis, he was 21 when he signed his 14-year, $341 million contract. To put that into perspective, Vladimir Guerrero is going to be 40 years old when his contract is up. And
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure the Blue Jays are they even happy about this contract for an overweight first baseman? Like,
Yeah, it's a lot of years, man. I'm pro player, but I just the amount of years that these owners are agreeing to is pretty crazy. I think I would, on the flip side, talk about if we could get a salary basement as far as what the owners have to spend, because I think that they get away with having to spend little to nothing with teams like the A's, the Rays, even the Rockies, and there needs to be a basement that has to rise up to where these teams are actually having to compete and spend money versus just trying to get away with getting away with just putting a product on the field and saying, here, just deal with this. So there's definitely the thing about baseball is there's TV revenue that's so vast for these coast teams as far as the Dodgers and the Yankees. That's why they can spend the most amount of money, is because their TV contracts are the most lucrative.
yeah.
And that is something that should be explored more, as far as that should be, divvied up across MLB, but it just goes to those two teams. So year in and year out, the Yankees and the Dodgers can spend the most money. Well, their TV contracts bring in the most money. So that's something that needs to be kind of, addressed moving forward.
Yeah, it's just it's always been wild to me. Growing up, they always talked about small markets, big markets. Yankees, when I was a teenager, was a large market. Uh, Kansas City was a small market. Pittsburgh, small market. And it's like, for, I don't know, it was like 20 years. It took the Royals 20 years to get back to the World Series because they had all of these guys who ended up being all-stars signing with, the Mets or other teams, and they ended up going to the playoffs while you had the Royals just continuing to place in the bottom of the division, collect those first round picks, those horrible first round picks, and you didn't even know like what was going to happen. And that was the biggest issue for me, is they couldn't pay their players, and their players, they ended up getting paid everywhere else, and
Right.
I just don't like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a problem that's been going on for a while with small market teams, and it's kind of something that's just it's come to be known that if you're in a small market team and you're one of those younger talents and you're reaching a contract time, that it's most likely not going to be with that team, and you're going to go explore your free agency or just your other options elsewhere.
Yeah. All right, last question of the night. It's a Dodgers question. Do you actually think that the Dodgers are not going to win the World Series with what? I think they got $1 trillion in their roster now or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna go against the grain here and just say they're not gonna win it this year. I'm gonna say they're gonna get to it, but I just think they're not gonna win it just because there's gonna be a team that's just playing better at the right time. I don't know who from the AL that would be. Obviously, we got a lot of games to play, but I just think they can't keep doing this. Like it's almost too easy for them as far as just the amount of money they can spend and how much they can dip their toe into the Japanese market and bring players over. So. Um, yeah, I just hope there's a team that's playing hot at the right time to knock them off, because we baseball needs more teams in the World Series.
It's just, it needs MLB needs more parity. They do. Like, give the Rockies a bone and just let them get in a playoff spot. It's not going to happen because
Yeah,
they are not good right now. I mean, yeah, they just beat the Nationals, but they had to do that. They barely got back past them, but yeah, it's just, I thought the Braves were actually going to be able to get there, but I just, they didn't replace what they lost in the pitching staff. And so
yeah,
I didn't like that very much. And then you got Jurickson Profar, he's out 80 games. And so it's a big mess over there for the Braves. And so I don't even know who from the NL would be able to knock them off at this point.
yeah. There's a lot of games to be played, but I think still there's their Padres are tough. Their Padres are going to
Oh,
be right
yeah.
on their heels.
Yeah,
So
they are. They're doing pretty darn good themselves. All right, man. I wanted to thank you for coming on to the show. It has been truly my pleasure. I got a former major leaguer to come on the show, and I got to ask him all the questions under the sun. So thank you for coming on to The Burn,
yeah, man.
Scott Carroll.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, man. So you guys, hope you enjoy and have a good rest of your week.
Absolutely. And just so the audience knows, we have an episode tomorrow. We got the owner of HRD Bat. If you don't see it in the background, he is the owner and operator of HRD Bat. He makes his own bats. He's got a contract with MLB and with, I believe, the Toronto Blue Jays. Great guy. He's going to come on. He's going to give us his story, because that is what we're all about, the journey right now. And so we're going to be doing that on Tuesday. On Thursday, we're doing a 3-hour live stream with the Horseshoe Mob podcast. I'm not sure my butt is going to be able to handle this chair for that long, but we shall see. But thank you, Scott, for coming on. It's been awesome. And maybe in the future we'll be able to talk a little bit more Royals. See
Yeah,
how
man.
that goes.
Thank you. All right. See ya.
All right. See, you have a great night. And on that note,